On our trip to Labrador, Spike said that he'd like to ride to the end of the James Bay Road, now called the Billy Diamond Highway, and then across the Trans-Taiga Road. I hadn't heard of the Trans-Taiga, but it sounded really good to me. The moniker of the most remote road in North America seemed like an adventure on a grand scale, and one that I couldn't miss. And so it began. Spike and I met in Val-d'Or, Quebec. Despite the fact that Spike and I were coming from 600 kilometers apart, we arrived in Val-d'Or within minutes of each other. That had to be a positive omen. The next day began unusually late, 10 o'clock, because it was mighty chilly and I couldn't bear to get out of my sleeping bag. It didn't warm up much and we headed northeast towards Chibougamau. Wow, that's fun to say, Chibougamau. A tea break was in order after traversing 150 kilometers of windy roads in the backwoods. We found a well-cared-for park in the petite town of Lebel-sur-Quévillon, but the wind was so strong that there were whitecaps on the waves. This made it difficult to boil water on my camp stove and made the stop a short and uncomfortable one. Back on Route 113, the road was spectacular all the way to Chibougamau. There were plenty of bends and dramatically steep hills to entertain us on the way to the largest town in Northern Quebec. With a population of 7,500, Chibougamau is the largest town that we'll see for days. In town, we had a surprisingly great dinner at Pub Royale. Afterwards, we settled down at Fond Nord Campground. This is a pretty little campground right on the shores of Lac Sauvage. I would definitely stay there again. To add to the delight, the black flies were swarming but not biting. Fortunately, the cool temperatures of this time of year are reducing the aerial pests, which is fine by me. I would rather wear a toque than a bug net. Our goal today was to ride 320 kilometers, or 200 miles, of Route du Nord to the Cree Nation of Nemaska. Travel on the first 125 kilometers or 75 miles was challenging because it was recently graded and the road was deep, loose gravel. Scary at first, but once you got into the groove of things, it was just fine. Conditions from marker 120 to 140 changed dramatically. The road became predominantly sand, which had the consistency of flour. Regrettably, because we were forced to fully concentrate on staying upright, we didn't take in as much of the beauty that the north has to offer as we would have liked. Nonetheless, the scenery that we saw in front of us was stunning. We only stopped twice to take a few pictures and have a drink of water and wash the sand off our face and rinse it from our mouths. The approaching truckers were respectful and slowed for us when they could, but nonetheless, they showered us with sand. We pulled over to let the trucks from behind pass us, and they bombarded us with dust as well. Happily, there's not a lot of traffic on this road. In the first 4 hours, we couldn't have seen more than 10 vehicles, which was good because riding engulfed by a dust cloud left us blind to the road. Wearing a neck tube pulled over your face is a must on this road. The last 50 kilometers or 30 miles of the ride was very difficult. There was a perfect mix of sand, loose gravel, big rocks, and deceivingly large potholes. This last 90 minutes drained my energy and had me doubting that I would enjoy the rest of the trip. I didn't doubt my skills or my bike, but with over 2,000 kilometers of gravel roads left on this trip, I wasn't sure that I would have any fun. When we reached Nemaska, the first town in 325 kilometers, we were greeted kindly by locals as we stopped at the mall. In the parking lot, we were speaking to the dog man and his friend Gabriel, two local guys, and they were educating us on the highlights of town and the places to camp. When I asked them if they knew where I could buy gas for my camp stove, Dogman replied, "Not here in town, but I have one at home, let me go get it." Sure enough, 5 minutes later, he arrived with a new canister of gas and then refused my offer to pay. Chatting with a few other people in the parking lot, we decided that camping at the local park on the beach was going to be the best option for the night. Hello folks, we got day 3 here of our Trans-Taiga.
or Taiga Coward. Haha. I think I'm funny. Day 3 of our Trans-Taiga adventure, and we are staying in Nemaska, a Cree village in Northern Quebec, and we have the greatest campsite. They allow you to camp at their little local park. So let me show you around this place. They have 2 nice little gazebos here, and there's where we set up in making our dinner. And a lovely little beach. I think I'll go for a swim this evening, even if it's only a short one, because we worked up a big sweat on our drive on the North Road today. But have a look at this. It's 7 o'clock and the lake is beautiful. There are people just over here and they're picking wild blueberries. So we're gonna pick some wild blueberries tomorrow and have them in our oatmeal. Awesome.
As we settled into our tent, we contemplated an extraordinary day. We conquered 350 kilometers of gravel, crossed the 50th parallel, and reached the world's friendliest town. It only seems fitting that my doubts about the trip vanished on the shores of Lake Champion. Despite cursing the sand all day, I welcomed the Sandman and felt like a champion as I fell into a deep slumber.
Hi, Michael. What do you think of this campsite?
Fantastic. One of the best places I've ever stayed.
I agree.
The first 10 kilometers on the North Road to the start of the Eastmain Road were awful. This was a re-ride from yesterday and it was the toughest conditions that we would endure all day. That being said, everything is easier when you've had a good night's sleep and you have a smile on your face. There was almost no traffic and very little wind today, but that meant that every truck that did pass us left a terrifying cloud of dust over the road that took us 30 seconds to ride through. The Eastmain Road was a delight for both the road conditions and the scenery. We passed many lakes and rivers that were just fantastic. Stopping at the Eastmain Power Generating Station, we are impressed by the size of the facility and the complexities for engineering mega projects like these. From there, we took the ill-named Muskeg Road north, and it too was well maintained and a pleasure to ride. I call it ill-named because the Muskeg is swamp or bog, and the last 30 kilometers before reaching Billy Diamond was dry, powdery silt. That stretch was deep, soft, and nearly unmanageable. This time I had no doubts about the trip despite how difficult it was to ride. Once on the Billy Diamond Highway, we headed south to Relais 381, a glorified truck stop, housing complex, and heliport. We filled up with gas and treated ourselves to a top-notch poutine. Truck stop poutine is always the best. We knew there was wild camping just south of Relais 381, but we were too tired to ride any further, so we decided to stay. The parking lot camping is free, and the RV club that was staying there for the evening brought a whole festival vibe to it. The day began in a less magical setting than we've become used to. Today we clambered from our tents onto the gravelly tarmac of a subarctic truck stop. Freshly showered, dried tents, and a spirit of serenity made for an effortless departure. As we decamped the enchanted world of Relais 381, the air was already a seductive 17 degrees, or 64 Fahrenheit, and the day was full of promise. The Billy Diamond Highway was heavenly, as it was freshly paved for about 50 kilometers, where it metamorphosed to 40 kilometers of bumpy gravel. But after the experience of the last 2 days, this was a piece of cake. Once we cleared the gravel, we were traveling on dilapidated asphalt with frost heaves and rim-busting potholes for 200 kilometers. It's easy to become complacent on this road with its rolling hills and long sweeping curves, but you need to be cognizant of the perils lurking in the pavement. There are frost heaves the size of basketballs and deep potholes and cracks that are waiting to snatch you from the saddle and catapult you down the tarmac. After setting up our tents in the campground in Radisson, we headed 90 kilometers or 55 miles west to the Cree Nation of Chisasibi. We were shocked by the size of the town. It has 6,500 residents, and we were dumbfounded by all the new buildings and ongoing construction. Online reviews declared that dinner at the Retro Days Cafe was the best food in town. The claim to having great wings proved valid and delicious. But the real highlight of the stop was meeting the proprietor, Roger Orr, who regaled us with stories and played us a song on his guitar. It was great.
This is a bit of Bob Dylan.
Okay.
I'll try.
And he's from here, Bob Dylan.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know he was
My
Cree,
grandfather.
but I
The post-dinner festivities included a ride down a dusty washboard track to the bay. We parked our bikes amongst the local fishing canoes and splashed our hands in the salty waters of the Arctic Ocean. There was a stiff wind blowing from the bay, but the water was surprisingly warm, and so were our psyches. The views were magnificent and I felt harmony. I'm not sure this serenity can be found in the south, but the call of the north was resonating deep in my soul. I apologize for the wind noise. I left my windsock at the campsite. I didn't think it'd be this windy because inland it's not. It's 28 degrees and we're on the shores of James Bay. This is awesome. There's the spike at James Bay in the water. Perhaps the sereneness of the land is why everybody is so friendly here. We chatted with some local ladies who were out for an evening walk and they were absolutely lovely. On the beach, two cyclists from Wisconsin were celebrating the conclusion of their ride to the end of the Trans-Taiga and back. It turns out they were father and son and they were in their 40s and 70s. This was both amazing and humbling at the same time. Good on them. What an inspiration. As the sun began to escape across the Arctic, we set off to see the power generating stations LG1 and LG2. The power stations and dams are spectacular feats of engineering. Our amazement of their size and output came with contemplation of the ecological impacts and the toll on the Cree people. The views were mesmerizing as the sun set on the taiga.
Look at that. Holy smokes.
Today we are traversing the Trans-Taiga Road, a wild unpaved beast stretching 666 kilometers, 415 miles deep into the subarctic. It's remote, rugged, and definitely not a place you want to break down. We're heading north and east on the most isolated road on the continent. How isolated? At the end, 745 kilometers, 463 miles from the nearest town. The scenery? Well, what we could see through the low-hanging slate gray clouds was haunting. Wildfires from last year? They've left their mark, turning vast stretches of forest into charred remains. It felt like we were riding through the set of a post-apocalyptic movie. Our only wildlife sighting? A young bear crossing the road ahead of us. And squirrels. So yeah, the post-apocalyptic vibes were real. Pro tip on this road, Always carry extra fuel. At our second stop of the day, signpost 264, I emptied my 10-liter reserve gas can into the tank. Trust me, the road's unpredictability keeps things interesting without having fuel anxiety added on top of it. The road conditions? A delightful cocktail of loose gravel, bumpy rocks, and sand traps big enough to swallow your whole bike. A reminder that sand traps aren't just for golf courses. On the spike difficulty scale, today gets a 7. The Trans-Taiga keeps you on your toes, or at least on your pegs. By the time we reached Mirage Outfitters, we were soaked, tired, and ready to refuel, both us and the bikes. Gas was $2.75 a liter, and dinner? $40 for an all-you-can-eat buffet. Steak, baked potatoes, and mussels. Way better than my original plan of boiling the bag dinner. Tomorrow, we ride to Caniapiscau, the literal end of the road. No services, no towns, just us in the wilderness. Adventure awaits. Good night from the banks of La Grande Rivière. Today we rode to the end of the world. Nah, not the ice wall at the end of the world. That's a whole different conspiracy channel. We made it to the end of the most remote road in North America. Gray skies were the scene as we filled up at the breakfast buffet, our last brush with civilization. Then for a second day in a row, we got to perform the ever so enjoyable ritual of strapping soaking wet gear onto our bikes. Ah, the glamorous life of adventure riding. By 8:30 we were on the move, leaving Mirage Outfitters behind, heading into the mist. The rain was lurking, but for 2 hours the weather gods were kind. It felt like we were riding into another world. And let me tell you, the Trans-Taiga past Mirage? Absolute perfection. Groomed gravel, no traffic. Like when I say no traffic, I mean we saw a grand total of 2 cars in 4 hours. Of course, even here, road construction never sleeps. 500 kilometers from civilization, and what do we hit? Roadworks. Luckily, no traffic jams though. Just a chuckle at how the world works. The road wasn't just nice to ride, it was a visual feast. Sweeping corners, twisties, hills, valleys, rivers, lakes, the whole epic road trip combo pack. We are at signpost 516, and we have a bit of an urgent matter to deal with in the rain. Spike's chain has come suddenly loose and is sagging down. Have a look at this. So he's getting the tools out, and I'm going to stand behind him and make jokes to make him happy. But have a look at where we are, and this is the most beautiful place to stop and do a chain adjustment.
Much better looking. Not Michael, he's always been good looking, but the chain looks better.
We rolled into Brisay, which used to be the end of the road. Time for a well-earned tea break, until the black flies decided we were their afternoon snack. First time this trip that we've been chased off by aerial pests. Spike stopped to chat with one of the workers at the dam. The guy's job? Monitoring seismic shifts. Fascinating stuff. Before we left, he dropped a little bomb. 5 motorcyclists had needed air rescues this summer alone. So yeah, that was sobering. From there, it was north and east to Caniapiscau. The first few kilometers were brutal. Spike gave it a 10 out of 10 on the difficulty scale. You know it's serious when Spike's giving out double black diamond ratings. Luckily, it mellowed out to a 7 after that.
Here's a close-up of what we're riding. Lots of rocks and heavy dirt.
Finally, we hit the end of the road at kilometer 666. And guess what? No epic sign, no heroic statue, just a sad-looking Outfitters by an airstrip. No you made it banner, just a dusty signpost and $3.50 a liter gas. But hey, we made it. Today was unreal. Some days on this trip, I felt like I barely survived the roads. But today was different. I was in the zone. The ride just flowed. I just enjoyed riding the Trans-Taiga. Good night from north 54 degrees, 50 minutes. West 69 degrees, 52 minutes. We woke up hunting for drinking water and ended up with an unexpected off-road challenge. The airfield manager pointed us to a local spring, but getting there meant tackling a steep, rock-strewn path that tested our grit. Thankfully, both Spike and I made it out with our water bottles full and a fresh boost of confidence for the day ahead. The ride that felt challenging yesterday, with fresh eyes and a clear head, it was just plain fun today. I even had a chance to look around, take in the endless lakes, hills, and sprawling wilderness. And yeah, when you're not just focused on survival, this place is stunning. We pushed on for 260 kilometers, 160 miles, under a steady, cool, overcast sky. Then, like a gift from the weather gods, the clouds parted and we got a solid 25 degrees, 70 Fahrenheit, of warmth. An unexpected highlight of the day. By evening, we reached Mirage Outfitters and set up camp across from the lodge. And what was on tonight's buffet menu? Ribs and rainbow trout. Can't choose, won't choose, had both. And for the first time in 4 days, I put on a clean shirt. Living the dream. After dinner, I stood on the bridge over La Grande Rivière writing my journal from the ultimate bug-free zone, thanks to a steady breeze. The black flies up here call it quits at sunset, and I'll be doing the same. Hats off to the Weather Network. They nailed it. Thunder, lightning, and rain right at bedtime. Then at 5 a.m. encore. The cold rain kept up all day, topping out at a cozy 12 degrees. Breakfast at Mirage was our only warm escape before heading into the day's big fuel challenge. 522 kilometers to Relais 381.
Here comes an Arctic blizzard.
We had two options. Ride 140 kilometers out of the way to Radisson for gas, or go full bush mode. We took door number 2. Scrounged a 4-liter water jug and an olive oil bottle from the lodge kitchen, and with that little extra fuel, we made it safely. Turns out the last bit of Trans-Taiga gravel was way easier this time. Not because the road changed, but because we did. 2,000 kilometers of gravel riding, and we've officially found our gravel pegs. That's right, gravel pegs. Like sea legs for adventure riders. The weather wasn't great. It's what my dad would call a Geordie summer day. Absolutely miserable. Cold wind rolling in from James Bay, just 10 degrees. But all I could do was laugh when I saw a sign reading 163 kilometers to gas and thought, whew, we're almost there. We camped at Relais 381 again. That's a slice of heaven for a day like today. With a low of 7 degrees, it'll be long johns and toque to bed with a fully zipped up mummy sleeping bag. Today was a long ride on the Billy Diamond Highway. We rode 600 kilometers south from the subarctic to Malartic. We made just one stop, and that was at the magnificent Rupert River. It was just 10 degrees, so it was a quick picture, a bio break, and then back in the saddle. We rolled into Malartic and pitched our tents at their amazing municipal campground. The last night on the road is always bittersweet. Can't wait to get home, but there's something special about being out here, riding with Spike. Adventures like this remind me of how lucky I really am.
Last words, Mike.
Fantastic trip. Really good time.
Awesome. Where are we now?
We're in Malartic.
Malartic.
Yeah, Bad Arctic.
And we're going to look in a big hole.
That was a big hole.
After a stop at the Malartic open pit mine, a huge scar in the earth, but incredible to see, we hit the road. At the first traffic light, Spike turned right to Montreal, and I took a left back to Ontario. This trip changed me in ways I can't yet put into words. To reach places few ever see, to connect with the land, and to do it all with Spike, my friend of 44 years. That was a gift. And my Tiger took it all on. From rough gravel to smooth pavement, it was a beast. So thanks for coming along on this wild ride. I love you all, and that's all from the center of the universe. Go forth with an open mind, and most importantly, an open heart. And remember, self-care is not selfish.
But the reason I'm doing this isn't to tell you about the road, because you can Google that. It's to tell you about the genesis of this idea of when we decided to go on the Trans-Taiga, because it's quite meaningful to me. 3 years ago, we were riding on the Trans-Labrador Highway. What a fabulous trip that was, although it's paved most of the way now, so there's only 600 or 700 kilometers of gravel. But while we were on that trip, Spike said to me he'd like to ride the James Bay Road and the Trans-Taiga. I'd never heard of the Trans-Taiga, but it sounded like an adventure too good to miss, so I was up for that. But the true genesis of this story goes back to 1982, and 3 things happened in 1982. The first was, I lost my hair. I have alopecia, and I became the bald kid at my high school. Not a lot of fun in the big hair 1982 era. I realize now that I'm actually a more evolved species than the hairy ape people that are the majority on the planet. I'm more of a Homo sapien 2.0. But before I realized that, I was just a scared teenager during the 1980s. I took refuge in our library at lunch to stay away from the hairy bullies. And fortunately for me, they had a subscription to Cycle Canada. And I loved it. I was already a moto junkie because of my uncles in the UK and their motorcycles. But I became more of a moto junkie when I read all of the issues of Cycle Canada that they had in the library. This was quite surprising to anybody who knew me because I couldn't finish a single book that was assigned in our English class, but I had no problem reading about motorcycles. That still lasts to today. Anyhow, one of the issues that I read that I was enamored with was an adventure of 2 guys riding their motorcycles all the way to James Bay on the James Bay Road. I knew at that time that I would make that ride. I wasn't sure how or when, but it was always in my mind that I wanted to ride the James Bay Road. Also in 1982, I met my good friend Spike. We bought our motorcycles together. I bought an XL 250, he bought an XL 185, and we rode all over the place. We rode to many places that were fun, many places we shouldn't have gone, and many places maybe it wasn't even safe to ride little bikes like that, but we did it. It wasn't long before we went from our little XLs onto road bikes, and with that came bigger and longer trips. And then we ended up heading up to Quebec, and that's where he met the love of his life, Madame Spike. He ended up going back and living in Quebec, and I stayed in Ontario, and when kids and mortgages and all the adult stuff happened, we kind of drifted apart. Like many people, as we get older, motorcycles took a backseat to our adult responsibilities. But then slowly we got back into it, and out of the blue in 2019, Spike gave me a call and said he was going to be riding right past the center of the universe where I live. I was excited. I hadn't realized he was riding again, and he hadn't realized I was riding again. So I rode out to Sudbury and met him, and we rode around for a couple days, and it was fantastic. Since then, we knew nothing would stop us from riding together. Well, except maybe a worldwide pandemic, so there was the 1 year we didn't ride together since then. We've ridden all over the place. We've ridden the Trans-Labrador Highway. We've ridden down to the Tail of the Dragon. This summer, we rode out to Beartooth Pass in Montana. We've had a great time. But there's never been a trip like this one. This trip cemented the fact that we are BBFFs, best bike friends forever. So there you have the genesis of this trip. Goes back to 1982 and me hiding in the library reading Cycle Canada, all the way to 2021 when Spike says, let's ride the Trans-Taiga.